Buzzworthy Radio is on. The entertainment show that gets you up close and personal with today's hottest stars. Here's your host, Novell J. Lee.
Hey guys, it's Novell J. Lee and welcome into a new Buzzcast here at Buzzworthy Radio. Had the chance to sit down and speak with Jim Dooley. He is actually one of the composers on the TNT original series, The Last Ship. And to my surprise, I found out he actually composed the series Pushing Daisies, which was on ABC a few years ago. But also we talked to him about the release of the soundtrack for the video game SOCOM 3, which was actually released on the 18th of November. So we talked about that, plus much, much more with Jim Dooley. Check it out. This is Jim Dooley. Apparently he's this awesome Emmy-winning composer who went to NYU and majored in music composition. And he's just amazing. Yeah, you know, that's it. That's the basis of the interview. Right there.
Are you great? Yeah. You've been great for a long time? Yep.
Yeah. How long have you been great?
Yeah, about
But
going to be great in the future? I hope so. Great,
I hope
thanks.
So. Great, thanks.
And
click.
soon.
And click. But I mean, but there are some factoids about you I didn't really know about. I mean,
Well, where are you from?
I'm from Jersey.
Okay, because I'm from Queens.
Queens?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. You're about 2 hours away from where I am.
I mean, yeah. Well, I'm in LA now. It's like we're practically neighbors. If you're, compared to.
Yes, yes. Unfortunately, you're on the West Coast. I'm still on the East Coast, and you get to enjoy the 405, and I don't. So.
Yes, that's true.
So you get to have that type of fun in your day, but whereas I just basically just roll up the street and I'm home in less than 5 minutes. So.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, awesome.
I let you have that. That. Only when I visit out there, then I have to go through the 405, and then that's about it. But other than that.
Yeah, but I live in Malibu, and I commute to Santa Monica, so hopefully I get to avoid all of that nonsense as much as possible.
Oh, okay. Very, very good. Now, you actually composed for the show The Last Ship, which I believe was renewed for another season on TNT, I heard?
That's true. We got picked up, and actually they're extending our season from 10 season 1 to 13 for season 2.
Oh, well, that's good. Congratulations on that.
Thank you. Yeah, it's great for me, man.
Of course, that keeps you in a job. So
There's nothing quite like being an employed composer, I've got to tell you.
I think so. And you actually work with James Levine? I've actually talked to him.
Jimmy and I, we've known each other for, ages. He's an assistant when I was an assistant, and 15 years ago at Remote Control, what was then Media Ventures.
Remote Control, not like the Remote Control MTV's Remote Control?
For Colin Quinn.
Oh, okay.
No, the Hans Zimmer's company. So that's where we both started.
Okay. Very cool. Yeah, we had the pleasure of talking with him. He was very cool to talk to, and I saw that. I was like, oh, I know him.
No, he's a great guy. I don't know if a lot of people know this, but he's a real amazing jazz and gospel piano player.
I did not know that about him.
Yeah. I don't know how much he gets to use that stuff, but he's really a serious player.
Oh wow! I have to bring that up with him the next time. I had no idea about that.
Yeah, he's a good friend. I mean, I've known him for ages, and I've known him when he was dating his wife. Before they had kids. We're all really close and hang out a lot. So.
Oh, I knew him when he was in diapers. That's pretty much
I remember when it was conceived. The day of the big race.
Oh yeah. What? That's terrible. How would you describe the music on that show, on The Last Ship? Like, for those who've never seen a show, like, how would you describe the music composition for it?
I think people would be surprised by it because with the Michael Bay producing name, I think there are a lot of expectations from a lot of projects that he does. There's a current sound to that stuff, and I think this show has a bit of that, but it's much more the creators and producers of the show make it much more of a cerebral thriller, and that's combined with action. So you definitely get a lot more introverted and sensitive pieces and lots of odd tension things, and then you would get in, say, something I think like Transformers, which has great scores, but it's a different beast.
Oh, absolutely. And how often do you get to work with those on the show, like the actors or writers and producers and stuff, like they come in for a scoring session? Like, how often does that take place? Does that happen a lot, or?
Well, it depends on the show. For something like when I did Pushing Daisies, like that was much more involved with like the cast and the writers because there were song placements within the body of the show. So, you know, if Kristen Chenoweth is singing Hopelessly Devoted, well, then I got to come in and do the arrangement and work with her before the show is shot. Mm-hmm. Or if, like, Ellen Green is singing Morning Has Broken, you know, I work with her, and we do that, all that before it's shot. So I get to, for that show, I really met all the cast early on and got to spend lots of time with them, which is unusual compared to something like The Last Ship, where I didn't get to meet any of the cast, but the producers are, you know, very hands-on. We spend a lot of time with each other.
Okay.
Crafting the score and trying and experimenting.
Okay. And you actually touched on something that I saw in your bio, which I didn't know about, which was, of course, Pushing Daisies. You just mentioned that. You scored that show, and I love that show. And I didn't really get into it in the beginning until, like, my friend was, like, saying, you got to watch the show. This is so much fun and all this stuff. And then I started watching it. And, of course, when I started watching it, it got canceled. So that's pretty much how that rolled out. I started watching it, and then I get the notice, oh, by the way, Pushing Daisies is canceled. I was like, really? I just got invested for nothing. But
yeah, that was a tough one. You know, it was really the writer's strike that broke us because it was an expensive show and the ratings were great in season 1, and then when we came back for season 2 after the strike, it's like we were like victims, like lots of other shows, where it just didn't come back as strong, and the following had waned in the hiatus period. But we still have a very amazing fan base, you know, that are very still curious on, is it going to be a musical? Is it going to be a movie? When's the story going to continue? It's the 1001 Arabian Nights tale, where it's like you always want to hear there's so much more to be explored and unraveled that we haven't gotten to yet. So, I mean, there's parts of the stories I still want to know what happens.
Oh, sure. Oh, absolutely. And I would love to see Aaron and Gretchen come back in as well to work on it. Aaron Harberts and Gretchen Berg.
Yeah, well, I know them very well. Yeah, sure.
I would love to see them take part in that as well. Love those guys, what they're doing at Revenge right now. But
yeah, I mean, all the writers are just
all the writers are great.
It's just gone on, like Scott Nimmerfro and Abby Gawanter. I mean, there's just so many talented people who are on that, and that we all got really close and like embraced each other's, as you know, on the show, where it's usually this kind of West Side Story without snapping, that, you know, the writers are in their room and then I'm on my side doing my thing. And
right.
But we really, you know, the cross-pollination was so intense on that show.
Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely a show I would love to see revived. And if what's her face from Veronica Mars was able to do it, then so can you.
Jamie, what's her name? Jamie.
God, Kristen Bell. There it is.
Kristen Bell. Sorry, Jamie King. I got the
there it is. I was like, if it's like right there, and then.
I have a friend who's married to one of them. I was like, which one is it? Jamie? I always got them mixed up. Kyle Newman, I think, is married. He's married to Jamie King, not Kristen Bell. Wrong.
Okay. Yeah, I was like, it's coming. But I know it's the movie. I know the movie is Veronica Mars, but it's just who is the girl that stars in it? And if someone hears me say this, they're probably gonna.
Yeah, I know. I think it's an inevitability that something's going to come out of the. No, I'm sure there's going to be an iteration of it. What it's going to be, I think it's still up in the air. But I know Brian Fuller and Barry Seinfeld have been actively talking about what would be the best way to continue expanding on the show.
And you got to reunite with him, even though the show was never picked up for Mockingbird Lane. Reviving the infamous Munster theme, which of course was one of my favorite themes on television. So that was kind of cool to see and watch the backstage coming together of that theme song. So yeah, I liked it. Still, you know.
I mean, I loved working on it. It was just, you know, some shows it just happens you put all your love into something because it could go for a decade. Mm-hmm. Or it could go nowhere, and you have no idea. There's no way to gauge that. You just plan for the best and you see what happens. That's why, you know, you work on so many that hopefully one goes the distance.
Right. Yeah, definitely. You just don't know what happens until it actually happens.
Yeah, and it's really out of control. It's like, I did a pilot last year with Barry Sonnenfeld, with Jane Krakowski and Rachel Dratch. And it's like, I was like, oh, this is hysterical. It's like, didn't get picked up. I'm like, I have no barometer for what's going to go and what's not. So each one you just attack with the same level of intensity, because it's out of your control. It's like, well, we can't sell this to teenagers, so they order pizza, so we're not going to pick it up. And like, that's just how that goes.
Never heard of it in that comparison before, but I get what you mean. Just never thought of it in that way.
Funny. Well, there's an engineer that I've worked with who mixed Little Mermaid 3 for me, Dennis Sands, who is a world-class engineer for Danny Elfman and Alan Silvestri. And I asked him one day, I'm like, hey, so what are you working on? He's like, I'm selling soap. And I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, well, that's what we do. We create content so that in between people can sell soap. Like, that's a sobering thought that, it's you're entertained, and and then there's a commercial for, Pampers.
Yeah.
So.
It's not soap, but henceforth, soap operas, they did that back in the day, so,
Sure.
it's definitely the trade, and this is coming from a guy who watches this stuff, so,
Yeah, hey, man, it's like we're all, it's important to be comfortable with what you're doing, because it allows you to do your best work.
Oh, absolutely, and I understand that we have very exciting things to talk about as far as the soundtrack to the SOCOM 3 is coming out.
It's out.
It's out. Why do I think that it's not the 18th yet? Maybe it's because I don't want to think that Thanksgiving is next week. But
and that's exactly what your psych is telling you. It's like, it's not turkey time yet.
It really is, because I was looking at the flyer, and I was like, oh, the 18th, that's next week. And then you said, no, it's already out. And I looked at my watch, and it says the 21st on it. And I'm like, oh yeah, next week is Thanksgiving. Yeah, no, I'm not ready for it. And it's already out.
I feel like Debbie Downer. I'm like, wah, wah. Sorry.
Wah, wah. Yeah, thank you for crushing my dreams.
Like, my favorite ride is the Hall of Presidents. Wah, wah.
Right now, I'm listening to Charlie Brown's Teacher. Like right now, it's standing right in front of me. Like, right there in front of me. Seriously, right now. But that's a huge, exciting thing for you. I mean, this game came out like almost 10 years ago.
That's right.
And now we're getting the soundtrack for this. That's a huge deal.
It is. It's, it was my first, solo orchestral recording. I've been working with Hans Zimmer on movies, and I've heard my music with orchestras, but this was mine, and I got to write everything, and so it was an incredible experience. And then you're like, okay, I can't wait for the world to hear this. And you're like, no soundtrack release, but finally got it out, and I'm really excited for people to get a chance to hear it, outside of the context of the game.
It's exciting because for me, it's a video game. I think that's exciting for me. I love video games. So imagine me just going like, oh, look, there's going to be a soundtrack coming out for this now. What was the initial thought that you were actually scoring a video game itself?
You mean in the very beginning of it?
In the very beginning of it.
Well, it was more like, I guess a shock and awe would be at the beginning. I was pitching for it, with a number of other composers. We've got some very talented people, and we all had to write themes, and they were going to pick the composer who wrote the theme that they thought would be most appropriate for the show. And so, that became what I wrote as my demo is essentially the main title to the game, and so that was my submission.
Okay.
So I was like, wow, you got it. I'm like, wow, I can't believe this. I get to. It was a big deal for me, and and for a lot of people that I worked with as our initial solo projects. Like my orchestrator Tim Davies, it was his first real big, first big orchestration job, and most recently he was the orchestra for Frozen. You know what I mean? So it's like
we can't get away from that movie. But go on.
So for all of us back in the day, this was a real big step.
Yeah. What can people expect with the release? Like, what can they get in this?
How do you mean?
Like what's included? Like what are they going to?
Well, I got to tell you this: there was so much music to go through because we